Montreal Canadiens have a tradition of excellence. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to CTV's live coverage of Soviet NHL Super Series 89. The Canadiens may have a tradition of excellence, but they will be hard-pressed tonight because you add to their lengthy injury list a flu bug, which has attacked this team, sending goaltender Patrick Roy to hospital this morning with dehydration. Bobby Smith also will sit. The Soviet Wings apparently do not have this flu bug. Their coach Igor Dmitriev says his guys have iron stomachs. His guys are also in 5th position at home in the Soviet Elite League as we check the standings there. Himik Voskresensk currently on top. The Wings on this trip lost their first 2 games. They won for the first time 2 nights ago at Madison Square Gardens against the Rangers. As for the Canadiens, their record quite respectable, but in the division with Buffalo, they are falling behind. With injuries and the flu, they have won only 2 of their last 10. Head coach Pat Burns says his club is taking this one seriously. They must get back in the winning mode. Dmitriev hopes that his team is not too emotionally high for tonight's game. Speaking of high, we're going to go high up in the broadcast booth in the gondola in just a moment, but let's take you back about 30 years. This is a young man in Lindsay, Ontario, receiving his first pair of hockey skates, and he goes on to be captain of the New York Rangers. Dave Maloney standing by upstairs with Ryan Roos. Gentlemen.
You haven't aged that much, Dave.
Who was that? That must be Don Maloney for sure.
We've got the Soviet Wings in here. This is the 3rd tour of North America for this hockey club. They seem to have been on the improve since they started the tour. They're facing a team that's in a slump here in Montreal.
Well, from the Soviets' point of view, they're facing the best team that they've seen so far this year in the Super Series. In the meantime, the Habs are seeing the weakest team of the touring Soviets. Montreal's looking for this series to get it turned around. Hopefully they can head into the backstretch here with something momentum.
Well, they've got some people that we know and have seen in the past, the Soviet Wings team, including number 8, Sergei Nemchinov. Nemchinov scored the winning goal in the World Hockey Championships in Stockholm last spring. He was is a veteran of the Soviet Wings and also of the Soviet national team.
Well, as Dan mentioned at the top of the show, Evgeny Stepov, big left winger, 6'1", 195. A lot of teams in the NHL would like to have this guy who can score goals. He's got 15 this year on their roster in the National Hockey League.
Well, they talk here in Montreal about the Canadiens lacking skilled players. You'd never say that about this young fella. Stéphane Richer has gotten better every year he's played in the National Hockey League. He's bordering stardom right now. They're expecting another 50-goal year from this young man in the near future.
Well, one of the Montreal Canadiens co-captains, Guy Carbonneau, a 2-time Frank Selke Award winner for defensive hockey, but this was a guy who scored 72 goals in junior, 94 points in the AHL. Perhaps a team struggling for offense could get it from Guy Carbonneau.
All right now we're going to go down to the opening ceremonies. Here's Claude Mouton to give us our presentation.
À la défense, en défense, le numéro 5, number 5, Konstantin Kurashov. Le numéro 13, number 13, Alexander Terikov. Au centre, at center, le numéro 8, number 8, Sergei Nemchinov. À l'aile droite, right wing, le numéro 15, number 15, Sergei Karin. À l'aile gauche, at left wing, le numéro 25, number 25, Yuri Kimlev. Et les autres membres de l'équipe des ailes du Soviet, the other Soviet wings, l'instructeur-chef, the head coach, Igor Dmitriev. Et maintenant, l'alignement débutant pour les Canadiens de Montréal. And now, the starting lineup of your Montreal Canadiens. Dans les buts, in the nets, le numéro 1, number 1, Brian Hayward. À la défense, on defense, le numéro 17, number 17, Craig Ludwig. Le numéro 28, number 28, Éric Desjardins. Au centre, at center, le numéro 21, number 21, Guy Carbonneau. À l'aile droite, at right wing, le numéro 6, number 6, Russ Courtnall. À l'aile gauche, at left wing, le numéro 26, number 26, Matt Naslund. Accueillons maintenant les autres membres du club de hockey canadien, your Montreal Canadian players. L'instructeur-chef, the head coach, M. Pat Burns. Mesdames et messieurs, il y a quelques jours, le plus grand défenseur de l'histoire du hockey professionnel nous quittait suite à une très longue et douloureuse maladie. Nous aimerions vous demander de vous joindre à nous pour une minute de silence en mémoire de ce grand athlète. Ladies and gentlemen, a few days ago, the world of hockey suffered the loss of its greatest defenseman ever, who died after a long illness. We would like to ask you to join us for a minute of silence in memory of the great Doug Harvey. Maintenant, mesdames et messieurs, les hymnes nationaux chantés par Madame Odile Fay, accompagnée à l'orgue par Madame Diane Bible. Now the national anthem sung by Miss Odile Fay, accompanied with the organ by Miss Diane Bible.
Платила навеки великую, как здравствует Бог,
Molson's NHL Super Series 89 on CTV returns in just a moment. Welcome back to the Montreal Forum. I'm Ron Roosh along with Dave Maloney and Dan Matheson for this final game of the Soviet Wings Tour of the National Hockey League. They're playing here at the Montreal Forum. There you see the officials for tonight's game, headed by Denny Morel, who will be the referee. Wayne Bonney and Gerard Gauthier are the linesmen. Oleg Bratash, 23-year-old from Moscow, will be in goal for the Soviets. He had the best goals against average in the Soviet League last year. And Brian Hayward, the guy they like to call the road warrior around Montreal because he plays the majority of his games not here in the Forum where Patrick Roy is king, but on the road. He is, of course, being forced into the lineup because of the flu, a rather serious flu that has been taken by Patrick Roy. Play is underway at center ice. Yemchimov had to go off his leg. Carbonneau throws it over to the wing. Harin back. Soviet national team veteran had the puck stolen from him. Here's a shot. Scores! That took 12 seconds.
It does not take the Canadians long to get on the scoreboard this evening, and really not a whole lot happening. There's not enough time for anything to develop. The puck is going to get dumped in, and Maslin is just going to take the Soviet defenseman Karashov off the puck, put it out to Courtnall, and Courtnall's just going to beat him on the long side, just under the right shoulder. In the meantime, not a fancy knockdown, drag-him-out play, but in the meantime, 1-0 Montreal, 12 seconds into the first period.
So Courtnall gets the Canadians on the board. Back in over the line for the Canadians is Stéphane Lebeau, but it's taken away, and Richer has to circle with it. He leaves it off for Corson, and Corson hits the line. Corson with Lebeau. Lebeau gets the pass in front of the net, works around behind the net, tried to throw it in front, and then it's knocked to the ice. Now Lebeau hooking it over to the boards. Lebeau, then Corson. Lebeau in the corner. Out for Richer. He tried to get it back to Ludwig, and it's intercepted. And out come the Soviets. The lead pass, Lebedev. And there's a hard shot, and Stepa thought he'd put it in. It deflected up into the crowd, but Stepa put his arms up. He thought he had scored on the play. As you look at Igor Dmitriev.
Dmitriev is kind of a comical character. He impressed me as the Soviets' David Letterman. We were talking to him today, and a twinkle in his eye, but it was interesting to hear him speak at where hockey is heading. He doesn't think the red line should be taken out. Pat Burns suggests that the Jet fighters tracked down the Habs when they came back from their Western string. Struggling a little bit. It's a tough year, an awfully tough place to coach, Montreal.
Lefebvre, a lot of young defensemen on this team, and it's part of the problem. They're in the rebuilding process here in Montreal, that they're surviving at all through this has been interesting. Here's Zaitsev now starting out. Zaitsev with a Soviet player down in his own zone. Zaitsev throws it over the wing. Here's a quick shot. Steered into the corner by Hayward. Schneider, young Matthew Schneider out of the Cornwall Juniors, clears it along the boards. McPhee knocking it down. Sprudlin then picks it up, takes it behind his own net. Sprudlin starting out. Sprudlin threw it right into the skates of Zolotov, who was back-checking on the play. Puck slides back into the Soviet zone. Volkov ahead for Zaitsev. Zaitsev over the line for Zolotov. Drops it off. Zaitsev. Zaitsev tried to backhand a pass over to Mironov. That failed to work, and out come the Canadians again, and getting a pass away was Mike Keane, and he was leveled just as he got that pass away by Boriskov. Castle's moving in. Gilchrist also there. Now Castle's again. In front, Keane. Shot right on. Keane again. Rolls to the goal mouth, and Bratash split it behind the net, and the Soviets start right back out. A rather vigorous start to this game. Terekov out at center ice, but Dufresne intercepts it there. He passes it off to the far side for Jean-Jacques Daigneault, who clears it around the boards. Castles moves after it against the boards, being checked closely there. Behind the net, cleared out. Boriskov out at center ice. Dufresne dropping it back for Daigneault to Dufresne. Daigneault on the wing for Gilchrist. Gilchrist hits the line. Gilchrist shooting it around the boards. Courtnall off the bench, deflected out into the slot now. Gilchrist giving it to Carbonneau. He shoots it in, and it's Courtnall. Courtnall ducking away from a check. Courtnall one-handing it to Ludwig. Ludwig clearing it in front. Carbonneau trying to get a shot away, but he was checked on the play directly in front. Now here's Courtnall, and he shot it wide. Good chance for Courtnall again. Carbonneau shoots it. It goes through the goal mouth area. Ludwig, Courtnall flipping it into the slot, and it's knocked out to center ice, and Courtnall will go back into his own zone. Courtnall off the glass, tracking it down on the far side. That's Desjardins. Now Ludwig off the boards past Courtnall to center ice. Soviets will regroup in the center ice zone. Now Nemchinov shot right on. Big save on a screen shot by Nemchinov. 1-0. The Canadians lead the Soviets. 3:28 gone first period.
The speed of Russ Courtnall in the past shift creates opportunities for Montreal in the offensive zone. It looks like that threesome particularly a little quicker in the offensive zone than the Soviets are able to be on defense.
Lefebvre behind his own net for the Canadians. A hit for Corson, but he is checked by Terekov, and it's cleared out to center ice. Back to get it near his own line is Mironov. Stepa, the big scorer for this Soviet team, over the line. Up against the boards, Lebedev moves in to help him out. It came across to the point on this side, but Terekov unable to get the shot away. It's cleared out to center ice. Mironov's got it again. He threw it right into the skates of Corson. And Mironov will try again from inside his own line. He's number 2. Mironov ahead for Stepa, who one-hands it down into the Canadian zone. Back there is Lefebvre. Lefebvre clearing it off the boards, but the Soviets maintain possession now as Odintsov. Behind his own net, stopped by Schneider. Along the boards, it's cleared right onto the stick of Richer. Richer's got that speed. Here he comes. He's going to get around the defense. Gets set. Shot it through the crease. He got in too deep. Had a bad angle to shoot at as Bratash cut him off at the pass. Zaitsev back. Good action. Here's the shot. Zaitsev again, and he shot it wide. Richer will track it down along the board. Richer at center ice now. Richer hits the line with McPhee. McPhee gets the pass. McPhee trying to bull his way past the defense, and he shot it wide. He was tied up and couldn't get good wood on that shot as Volkov did his job on him. At center ice once again, Makarov. This is Sergei B. Makarov. His shot. That's blocked by Dufresne. Now around behind the net, Sovetov. Sovetov checked against the boards. Puck comes loose for Volkov. Volkov turning in the corner. Volkov looking for a man in front. Now Zaitsev is there, but they couldn't get it out in front as Hayward blocked that pass out. Makarov at the point, keeping it in. A bouncing puck. Dufresne trying to kick it loose in a traffic jam there. Zaitsev then took a shot. That hit McPhee's leg. Daigneault off the board. And it's cleared out to center ice. Makarov, number 6. Makarov, no relation to the Makarov with the Calgary Flames now. Over the line, there's a quick shot. That's gloved by Hayward. He holds on for the faceoff. 5:27 gone in the first period. Canadians lead 1-0 on a Courtnall goal.
The face-off to the left of Hab netminder Brian Hayward. Montreal did such a good job picking up that second man in the defensive zone, unlike the Toronto Maple Leafs who we saw the other night. They just don't allow that second man to get any chance in the defensive zone.
Gilchrist clearing it into the Soviet zone. Back to get it will be Terekov. Oh, he took a hit from Keane. Here's Gilchrist moving in. His shot deflects just wide. Gilchrist again. Gilchrist into Keane. Keane trying to get it back to Gilchrist. Good defensive job there by Lysenko, who shot it out to center ice, and Desjardins will go back for it. Inside his own blue line. Circling back now. Forechecking is Panin. And it's cleared to center ice. Gilchrist can't reach that lead pass. And back in his own zone, that's Strahov. Shooting it to center ice. One-handing it down inside the zone is Nemchinov. Back to get it is Matthew Schneider of the Canadians. It goes all the way to center ice, and Strahov again. Strahov. Yemchinov. He circles in front of his own net. Humelap working and picking up speed. He tried to get the pass to Humelap. Humelap take a hit from Courtnall, who had him lined up and let up on the check. And Mironov. Now it's center ice for Strahov. Over the line, Humelap. Humelap was checked on the play. Naslund drops it back. Schneider off the boards. Carbonneau trying to get it to the line, but it was a two-line pass. And at the 6:42 mark, we'll get a face-off. One of the rare face-offs caused by misplay from inside the zone. Face-off inside the blue line.
As I suggested at the top of the show, Guy Carbonneau. Now this Montreal system, unlike the firebrand wheel-em-deal-em days of the Flying Habs, the last 4 or 5 years are now a defensive hockey club. But maybe to the detriment of a guy like Guy Carbonneau. This guy had shown until he got to the Montreal organization in the early 80s that he had a penchant for scoring goals. So you have to determine, and my thought with Carbonneau is his best defense is going to be when he has the puck. You got to get him the puck. You got to encourage him to have the puck, because if he had, like Orr and Gretzky, who can handle the puck, the best defense will be when they're on offense because they have the puck.
And bad news for Team Junior Canada at Helsinki, where they had 3 goals scored on them in less than 2 minutes. Wound up losing the game to Sweden. Very damaging blow to their hopes. There's a shot right on. Big shot by Schneider. Here is Kurashov now out at center ice, and the lead pass for Stepa will be touched deep inside the zone by Sylvain Lefebvre, and back into the Soviet zone for a face-off. Well, you look at the Canadiens bench and you see an awful lot of young faces there.
You do see an awful lot of young faces, but we were talking before the show here, and there are not a whole lot of top picks in this lineup. When you go down the Montreal bench, outside of Shane Corson, and the argument may be that this club doesn't have the cream that the elite teams in the league have, and perhaps it's because they have not drafted that well in the last 3 or 4 drafts.
A lot of players not in the lineup here tonight, including Ryan Walter, Bobby Smith, Jyrki Lume, one of the young, promising defensemen. That's Lebedev clearing it out to center ice. And down over the line come the Soviets again as Odinsov goes in there deep. Puck comes to the side of the net. Canadians leading 1-0 here. Out comes J.J. Daigneault, gets it to Naslund. Naslund gets it back, controls it beautifully, but then threw it into the skates of Lebedev, and he shoots it back into his own zone. And the Soviets will regroup as Kurashov shoots it out to center ice. There it's Zaitsev. Zaitsev stopped. Dufresne inside his zone. Naslund. Lysenko shooting it back into the Team Canada zone, or at least into the Canadian zone. And Courtnall shoots it back out. Now ahead. Cleared off Volkov's stick into the corner. Ludwig's back there being double teamed, and the puck is taken by Sovetov. But then the Canadians get it as Naslund gets it from Richer. Naslund at center ice. Now Richer. Here's that shot, and it just steered into the corner. Good reaction by Oleg Bratas. Now Ludwig.
Again, the Canadians continue to create opportunities off some speed. Richer and Courtnall, Carbonneau and Naslund.
Corson, as they played you got it, I got it near the line. Finally, Corson comes over and takes his own pass. And it's Corson who brings it to center ice for Richer. Richer, long drifting shot from center ice. Malakhov is there for the Soviets. Out to center ice where Ludwig picks it up. For the Canadians, Ludwig. Desjardins. Desjardins takes a hit as he crossed the red line. That's put right back on the stick of LeBeau. Stepan LeBeau to Richer. Richer stopped just as he crossed the line by Mironov. Soviets back with it now. This is Panin over the line. Panin working for the corner with Desjardins right on top of him. In to help out on the play is Boriskov. Back to the point for Mironov. Mironov just golfs it into the corner. And behind his own net, Sylvain Lefebvre. Lefebvre to Corson. Corson out for Ewan. Todd Ewan making his first appearance in this hockey game. Ewan tried to bull his way past Mironov, was knocked off the puck. Heron, a rink-wide pass for Humelap. Humelap took a check from Schneider, but carried on behind the net. Yemchinov, whoa, he took an elbow behind the net from Schneider, and referee Denny Morel let it go. Now it's Schneider who will start out. Schneider ahead for Skrudland. Skrudland taking a pass and dropping it neatly for McPhee, who shot it, and it was deflected by Skrudland wide of the net. Out come the Soviets with Humilev leading the rush. Humilev getting it in front. There's the shot right on. Big play in front of the net by Harin. And bigger on the play was Brian Hayward. Canadians continue to lead 1-0. Well, Dynamo Moscow and Buffalo locked in a 0-0 tie in the second period of their game, and the odd in Buffalo. And from the face-off, the Canadians lose it. Here's Lebedev's shot, and again it's Hayward. Shots on goal are 6-4. Make that 7-4 now for the Soviets. Hayward has been busy, and the better shots have come from close in by the Soviets so far. Stepa getting it along the boards, but Makarov couldn't hold it in at the blue line, and he goes back into his own zone. Makarov behind the net. Lysenko out through center ice, past Dufresne. Out of his net is Hayward. Leaves it for Daigneault. Daigneault starting out. They head for Gilchrist. At center ice, Gilchrist with Courtnall catching up. He gets the drop pass, tries to get it to Gilchrist. And it's cleared around the boards. The Soviets take over with Castles moving in. Puck is cleared to the line and brought back in, but then cleared to center ice on the delayed offside. No whistle on the play, and Ludwig touches it on the icing. So we'll get a face-off back in the Soviet zone. 1-0 Canadians lead. From the face-off, play back down in the Canadian zone, and the Canadians bring it right back out again with Naslund. Naslund hits the line along with Carbonneau. Naslund flipping it in behind the net. Carbonneau's there with Courtnall in front. He shoots it. And the puck is deflected wide of the net by Bratosh, the Soviet goaltender. Out they come again as Courtnall tried to throw a hip check at Zaitsev. Over the line it comes. Carbonneau then sends it right back out to center ice. Strahoff back in over the line, and it's cleared to center ice. Mironov off the board, collecting it inside his own blue line. That is Ludwig to Naslund. Naslund shooting it in, and Mironov will go back behind his own net. Number 2 for the Soviet wings. Out to Bukowski. Lefebvre took it away from him. Now Panin in over the line, but Bukowski was in too quickly. And the face-off on the offside.
This Soviet wing team shows no hesitancy to cut through the neutral zone. Stepta early in the period bounced one off the post after coming off the left side. A path was feathered through. They tried it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. They'll gain their defensive blue line and look for either winger cutting through the middle. Unlike a lot of Soviet teams, will have the center iceman nudge a pass to a flying winger. Wingers showing an idea to come off the boards in the neutral zone.
Snyder to Lefebvre on the face-off, clears it to the line. Khrushchev then sends it right back out to center ice. And it goes some good back-checking by Richer as he came back and stripped that puck. Snyder clearing it in. Richer's having one of those games, Dave.
Well, for him to play well, he has to get his feet going, and he has to skate, because then he can create the big opportunities with a big shot.
Well, there you saw the shot again. He's let about 4 of them go in this period already. Lefebvre to Schneider, back at his line. Lefebvre ahead, deflected by Corson, deep into the Soviet zone. Back to get it is Khrushchev. Khrushchev off the boards. That's Humilev. Humilev to Harin at center ice. Harin along with Yemchinov, and he threw it towards the net, but Hayward's out. He flips it into the corner, and Daigneault's got it. Daigneault sliding it out to center ice. Carrying the puck is Todd Ewan. Ewan back to Daigneault. Daigneault's shot, screen shot, and just off the glove of Bratosh. Ewan was right there for the rebound, but couldn't put it home. Now Harin at center ice. Yemchinov overskated it, and back come the Canadians with Strudland. Strudland waiting for McPhee to catch up. Gets roughed up along the boards by Lysenko. Lysenko and Strudland and Ewan. This is a big line for the Canadians as Ewan picks it up and circles in the corner. Ewan, Strudland. Strudland trying to hook it back to Ewan. There's going to be a penalty as Strudland was tied up from behind by Lysenko. The Soviets will get a penalty here at the 13:32 mark of the first period. Alexander Lysenko in for holding. A great job by Strudland behind the net, Dave.
Strudland and Todd Ewing just established a real good physical presence down low in the offensive zone. This is the tail end of about a 20-second spurt here where the Canadians are wrestling and continue to maintain the puck, and the Soviets could do nothing but grab hold. Consequently, Montreal goes on their first power play of the evening.
You talk about a tough line to play against.
Very
You've been
tough
on the ice against people like McPhee and Strudland. and Ewan. They're big, they're strong, and they lean on you.
When the Canadians are playing well at this tenure here is when it makes it so frustrating for the opposition to get to them because they're so big and strong.
Trying for a lead pass there. Daniel threw it right onto the stick of Mironov. He shoots it down. Desjardins will go back for it. They got Desjardins playing defense with J.J. Daniel. Daniel, noted for being able to move the puck. His defensive skills are somewhat suspect at times, but good power play man. He played for Dave King and the Canadian Olympic team back in 1984 in Yugoslavia, so he has the international experience. Here comes Naslund now. Naslund to center ice, drops it off. Desjardins golfing it around the boards. Castle moving in after it. Comes right back to the point. Daniel keeps it in. Castle's moving for it. Daniel gets it back and couldn't hold it at the point. Daniel shoots it in. Mironov then. Mironov just bringing it to center ice on the delayed offside. And it's Daniel back at his own blue line.
Again, we're seeing the Canadians struggle now. They do not have, outside of Richer, a whole lot of continuous offensive threats. If they can't get down low and get anything established, they struggle on the power play, and they have got nothing going here yet.
Corson in doing some work along the boards, but again, it's Mironov doing a pretty good job. Lefebvre shot, right on, rebound, bouncing puck. Lefebvre moves in after it. Lefebvre backhanding it to Richer. He'll tee it up. No, he gives it to the side of the net. LeBeau takes a shot. That's right on. And the puck is backhanded out over the blue line by Humalev. And again, the Canadians regroup. 20 seconds remaining in the power play. Canadians lead 1-0 on a goal by Courtnall. Assist to Naslund. Nemchinov hitting the line now. Getting around the defense. Snyder working on him. Gets in front of the net. Shoots it in there. It's loose, but LeBeau comes up with it. Quickly sends Corson away to Richer. Richer to the line. Cleared it to an open wing. Zaitsev comes back. Penalty is over. Zaitsev down over the line with Lichenko. Puck rolls to the goal mouth. Hayward just flips it in against the board. And Corson comes out. Corson at center ice. The lead passes for Keane. Keane to Corson. And the rebound and batting on it there was LeBeau. And the net goes off its moorings on the collision and is called for that infraction. 1-0. Canadians lead. 15:49 gone in the period. One thing they don't do in international hockey, Dave, is pressure the goaltender, gang the goal crease. Bratage just found out what NHL is all about.
Yes, this is NHL hockey here. People are going to come to the net, and particularly so now when the nets are going to move. The goaltenders here in the NHL, argument is that when the net is not anchored, it encourages the forwards to go to the net. So Canadians showing NHL style of hockey on that rush. But in the meantime, the Soviets had a little difficulty getting that fifth guy on the ice. The Habs were allowed to come through 5-on-4.
There's Bratage diving out into the traffic to cover it up. And a lot of rumble of booing through the Montreal Forum. Full house here in the Montreal Forum to watch this game. It always is a full house when the Soviets come to town.
Well, I think they got spoiled in that New Year's game in '75. Mentioned at the top of the show, and people have said that it's the greatest, one of the greatest games of hockey we'll ever see. The Red Army.
We've had some great New Year's Eves here. Here's a shot blocked at the blue line. Castles then gets it. There's a quick shot, and I think that just went off the glove of Bratage. Keane let that go. That was scrambling around directly in front of the Soviet net. Dufresne finally gets it at center ice, clears it in over the line. Makarov then brings it to center ice. There's that lead pass for Volkov. He shot it wide. Good shot it was, too. Zolotov. He's checked by Gilchrist. Gilchrist just hooks it out to center ice, and Mironov has got it. Mironov to Volkov. Volkov being tied up by Dufresne. And out to center ice it comes again with Gilchrist. Two-line pass. And we'll have a face-off back inside the Canadians' blue line. 3:23 left in the first period. 12 seconds into this hockey game. Courtnall scored, and that's been it.
Again, here we have Boris Bukovsky, one of the pickup members of the Soviet wing hockey team. This club in 5th place in their division. Did play 16 games for Dynamo Moscow.
The pickups that they've had here are from the second division teams. Instead of taking from other teams, this club has gone to the minor leagues, the second division of the Soviet League, I guess to get a look at some players, if nothing else, which is what they do here sometimes with exhibition games. Coach Igor Dmitriev just trying to find some talent somewhere. Here's Ewan near the line now, clearing it to the side of the net. Skrudland. It flips up into the netting. Skrudland hooked it loose. Or is it going to get pinned in there? It got pinned in, and it'll be called for a face-off deep inside the Soviet zone. 1-0, Canadians lead.
Hockey, not anything terribly creative. This Soviet wing is not a hockey club is not a terribly experienced team. It's particularly so on the blue line. They have no one with any national experience. They have no candidates for the national team, and we're seeing it here. They're getting pushed around a little bit.
Skrudlin throwing it out, intended for McPhee. That one went astray. And through center ice, Roscoe. Roscoe drops it off. Stepa trying to get around the defense on the backhand. There's the rebound. That one was flipped wide of the net. Good chance there for Odintsov. Now Odintsov battling literally behind the net. And out of center ice it comes once again. Desjardins. Desjardins trying to get it to Ewan. That's stopped. Now Skrudlin. But he can't get free, and Khrushchev gets in. There's a shot off the pad. Another shot on the short side on a broken stick taken by the shooter, which was Yevgeny Stepa. And it's Naslund who can't hold it at his own blue line. Makarov back inside his own zone. Makarov. Yemchinov checked by Carbonneau. Yemchinov again to Makarov. Courtnall took that, gives it to Naslund. Beautiful pass. Here's Naslund over the line. Stopping up now with Carbonneau moving into position. Flips it into the corner. Khrushchev is back there. Carbonneau as well. Naslund picking it up against the boards. Tried to get it into the slot area for Courtnall, but a pass would have been on his backhand. As it was, it went wide. Harin now inside the line. Harin, the national team veteran, cleared it in front, but it's deflected out to center ice. Here's a chance. Carbonneau, and it hit the linesman, and we had a delayed offside, and Carbonneau is going all the way down the left wing talking to the linesman. Harin will circle back into his own zone. 1:25 left in the first period. Cold breakaway there, and the linesman got in the way. Now Zolotov. Here's Sovetov going in. Shot on the short side again. They're not getting in front of the net. One of the things that's helping Brian Hayward tonight. Naslund beating it back in front of his own net. Turning is Matthew Schneider ahead for Naslund. Naslund, less than a minute remaining in the period now. Slides it ahead. LeBeau to Naslund. Naslund took it outside the blue line and brought it in. And it's called on the offside. Downstairs now to Dan Matheson.
Well, we invite you to stay with us for our first intermission. We'll talk to the Canadians' Guy Carbonneau and also with the Soviet Wings coach Igor Dmitriev.
Well, there's Guy Carbonneau. Had the golden opportunity. Linesman got in the way.
Well, between the linesman and it looks like there's a little bit of snow in front of the Soviet bench, so the puck got held up and then it hit the linesman's feet. But in the meantime, Brian Hayward showing good positioning and goal. He's had a couple of good saves by being in position. He's not flopping around. He's getting in good, solid position and just stopping the puck.
Stepa keeping it in at the line around the boards. Daigneault to Richer. Richer's had a great period. And it goes all the way down the ice. No icing on this as it's banged off the boards to the line. Daigneault kept it in. Looked like it went out over the blue line, and it did. Linesman Gerard Gauthier finally called it. 29 seconds left in the period, and 1-0. So, outside of this game, there's 0-0 in Buffalo. Dynamo Moscow playing that game. A couple of other NHL games are underway as well, and we'll be bringing you those scores. No score. We have no score tonight in Hartford either. 0-0. But Quebec and Toronto tied at 2. Gary Lehman just tied that game up in Maple Leaf Gardens. People have forgotten how to score goals in the new year, apparently. 0-0 in that Washington game as well in the second period. Dufresne clearing it. Khrushchev throwing it to the Canadiens line. Dufresne dropping it back. Daigneault. Dufresne out to center ice. The lead pass for Corson from LeBeau went well past him. And deep in the zone, they try to pin it in, and the siren goes. And the first period is over, a rather vigorous period in which the Soviets outshot the Montreal Canadiens 12-10, but the Canadiens scored 12 seconds into the game.
12 seconds into the game, the area where it counts. Mats Naslund's just going to go around behind the net. And Ross Courtnall had a good period, I thought, just cranks it home. He beats Bratashab on the long side, just under the shoulder. 1-0 Montreal.
A CTV News update with Lloyd Robertson is next. The score after one period here in Montreal. Canadians won. The Wings of the Soviets. No score.
Quite as much as we normally might. Let me ask you first, Coach. the players' reaction to this tour of North America. What has their reaction been?
Ну, я должен сказать, что у нас всего два игрока, которые, в общем-то, в прошлом играли с командами НХЛ. Это Немчинов и Хмелев.
I wish to say we have only two players in the team who have experience to play in NHL teams before.
Ну и в первой игре против Нью-Йорк Айлендерс, конечно, немножко, так сказать, робко выглядели. И, в общем-то, это было непривычно. Новая игра, новый стиль и новые условия игры.
In the first game against New York Islanders, by this reason, many of our players were instability because it was unusual for them, new style, new fashion of play.
Ну, я считаю, что вот в следующей игре с Хартфордом команда освоилась, игроки освоились, они, так сказать, уже не было тени робости. И была, в общем-то, настоящая игра, где, в общем-то, сражались от начала до конца.
And I believe with Hartford, all our players were more sure in the play, more confidence, and I think they played till finish in full power.
Мы сыграли два овертайма, нам они очень понравились, особенно второй, который закончился в ничью и принес нам очков в игре с Квебеком.
We played two overtimes and enjoyed by them, especially the second overtime when we'll got score.
Ну, я должен сказать, что мы, в общем-то, мотивированы на эти игры. Может быть, не в такой мере, как вот канадские игроки, потому что у них идет свой сезон, а мы, в общем-то, приехали для того, чтобы хорошо сыграть и набраться опыта.
I wish to say is we are motivated, our players motivated much more as Canadian players maybe, because we needed such experience very well.
This is quite a unique opportunity for a coach to have this kind of a break around the New Year's, bring his team from the league at home and make this tour. What does Igor, as coach, hope to gain experience? What does he hope to work on? How does he hope this tour will help his hockey team?
Ну, я думаю, поможет очень много. Ну, во-первых, в общем-то, приобретут опыт, так сказать, игры. Я думаю, что сейчас, когда мы приедем сюда к себе обратно и будем играть в своем чемпионате, это, так сказать, поможет в уверенности играть. Вот эти маленькие площадки, где постоянный контакт, где, в общем, такая очень жесткая игра, я думаю, что они научат игроков быстрее выполнять все, так сказать, приемы хоккейные.
I think it will be very useful for our younger players, for the whole team, because they play in this condition where in where more small courts, more small arena,
Yes.
And they must play with more quick movements.
Ну,
It's very useful.
И всегда контакт с более сильными, так сказать, командами, он дает толчок для улучшения игры.
And always when you compete with more strong team, it's a good stimul for you to improve the game.
Well, we have to go, and thank you very much for being with us. Good luck for the rest of this hockey game, and enjoy your day off. It's your last day, I guess, before you head home. So enjoy the shopping here in Montreal. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Igor Dmitriev is the head coach of the Soviet Wings. We'll be right back. This is Molson NHL Soviet Hockey on CTV.
Shots on goal, Soviet Wings 12, Montreal 10. Keane had 2, so did Richer for the Canadians. Nemchinov and Lebedev had 2 each for the Soviet Wings. The only goal, 12 seconds in.
12 seconds in, and again, Courtnall's just going to bury it. I thought the Soviets had the better quality opportunities. Brian Hayward standing up very well in the Montreal net, but where it counts, Russ Courtnall has the Habs the lead here after 1.
I thought that line had a tremendous first shift of the hockey game.
They really did. Again, Courtnall and Richer are two guys that have to skate to create opportunities offensively. Both of them did that in the first period. Richer had a couple of big shots. He came off the right side with just a burst of speed through the neutral zone and had good chances because he was skating. Now here's a guy a couple years ago scored over 40, tailed off last year, and this team struggles to get goals, and obviously Richer is a guy they're going to look to. But again, he's got to skate.
Well, you look at Pat Burns and Richer. Sitting beside Richer there is Todd Ewan. Big fellow just acquired from the St. Louis Blues for a draft pick as they try to get a little more muscle into this lineup. What they found is that the kid can play a regular shift, and he has been playing a fairly regular shift along with Strudland and McPhee, and on what is a line that can really wreck your prospects if they get to banging around a little bit. Here comes Courtnall again. He's out there with Carpenter and Naslund. Courtnall again with a shot. This time it deflected off Kurashov's stick way up into the crowd. And we'll have a face-off.
Russ Courtnall, as he did early in the first period, down the right side. Again, we suggested the trade for Courtnall and Kordic. Last year, people thought it was a gift, but Kordic is 8 goals with the Leafs, gives them a little more physical presence. But again, Kortnow playing well here.
Himmelab inside the blue line now. Himmelab shooting it out for Harin. Harin with Nemchinov over the line. There's Harin's shot. And again, it hits Hayward. He just let the puck hit him and then steered it into the corner. Ludwig in there doing some checking against Nemchinov. He's behind the net now, looking for a man in front. Unable to find it as Carbonneau moves in on him. Now Desjardins will try him. Out in front, big save on a close-in shot. Harin then takes a whack at it. Hayward down, and the puck winds up in the corner. Nemchinov to Harin. Harin out in front. He threw it through the slot. Harin on the far side was unable to convert that, and Naslund is there. Kortnow's shot, and that one drifted off the glove of Bratage. Winds up against the glass, and out come the Soviets once again. At center ice, this is Odintsov. Odintsov clearing it in. Hayward with Odintsov right on top of the goal crease. Hangs on, and we'll get a face-off in the Canadian zone. So some rather vigorous action to start this period.
Again, you suggested it well as you take a look at the Soviet bench.
They had a close-in chance, a couple of
but
rather
watch
trying
Hayward.
times.
When you suggest he lets the puck hit him, that's appropriately so. He gets in position and just lets the puck hit him. He's always in position. Again, Montreal very seldom outmanned in their own end of the ice. They do a nice job in their own end of the ice.
I'm always reminded of what the late Jacques Plante used to coach, and that was in today's hockey, in the hockey that has evolved since we started playing the Soviets, you must let the puck hit you. You can't be trying to make a play on it every time, because most of the time you don't even see it coming.
Exactly.
So be in position. Lefebvre. Corson just deflects it down the ice. Lashenko is back there to get it. Richer chasing after him. And Lashenko touches it. It's called on the icing. And again back into the Canadian zone for the face-off. So Lashenko, one of the pickup players on this team. They have a lot of them. The young players that they're giving a look at. Well, they're handling themselves pretty well in this hockey game. I was told that by Phil Scheuer, as a matter of fact, the NHL representative who was traveling with this team, that this club was extremely nervous about playing this game here in the Forum.
Well, certainly so. Dmitry mentioned that between periods that this is a green team, and this is a team that has looked to the Division I to fill some voids here, and they are in 5th place in the Soviet division.
Out comes Lefebvre now at center ice, shooting it in. Lashenko back there, but he leaves it. Maybe he should have picked it up because Corson winds up with the puck, but then ran into his own man as LeBeau was moving in. Now the Soviets will get it out. Schneider back. Stepa on top of him. Schneider vaults it around the glass. Makarov keeps it in. Lebedev, but he put it right on Schneider's stick. Now Lebedev again battling for it. Out to Makarov. Makarov rink wide. They shoot it right back into the slot, but the only person who was there was Corson. He clears it down. There's Richer, gets his own rebound back off the defenseman, and then can't hold it against the board. Schneider back out at center ice now. Just risks it over to the far side. Corson checking up against the boards. Lebedev is there as well, but he was headed for the bench, and Richer kicks it loose. Lefebvre. Schneider eases it into the Soviet zone, heads for the bench, and the Canadians will complete their change. As turning deep in his own zone is Sovetov. Sovetov clearing it off the boards, gets it back again. Rink-wide pass that eludes Ewan. Dufresne is back to get it. Dufresne working on defense with J.J. Daigneault. Dufresne out for McPhee. McPhee's out there with Ewan and Strudlin, that big line again. McPhee pulling his way into the zone, but is called on the offside. And a face-off outside the Soviet blue line. Canadians continue to lead this game, 1-0. Well, it'll be Strudlin facing off against Sergei Zaitsev of the Soviet Union, just outside the Soviet blue line.
For this line of Strudlin, McPhee, and Ewan to be effective, they have to get the puck in. They can't be too fancy through the neutral zone. They have to get the puck in and let their bodies do the work down low.
Strudlin feeding back to his defense. Dufresne up ice. Now Dufresne will get it again, and he clears it to the line. Strudlin had a man trap. Ewan was slow getting out.
Plays a little sloppier than started off the first period. The play seems to bog down in the neutral zone. Mike McPhee missed an awful lot of first part of this year. He's one of the guys that this Montreal team is not a young hockey club. I was surprised Mike McPhee is 29 years old, and when you get the leaders in the heart of your hockey club getting up there in years, perhaps we can begin to understand why maybe the Canadians will struggle a little bit.
Well, Sam Pollock used to have a theory about a hockey club. You could have too many people either at one end or the other, and it throws the balance of your team. He liked to have the 60% of his team in that age group between 23 and 27. 20% over 27, 20% below 23 to make up the 100% of your hockey club. The Canadians have found that middle ground, that 60% as puck wound up in the crowd. They've got too many at each end of the spectrum and not enough in their prime.
Pat Burns, he mentioned today, as did Guy Carbonneau, that the Canadians did not want to worry about the Soviet Hockey Club. He was glad that he didn't have a film to look at, because then he would perhaps start thinking about altering his game plan for the team that he was playing. I think he wants his club just to get back to the basics. I thought it was interesting that he suggested that it was a lot harder to play offensive hockey than defensive hockey, but I think to play defense, it requires more of an effort. More of the players today are encouraged in the offensive vein as young players, and I think it takes work to play defensive hockey.
Well, right off that face-off, it's Boriskov who took a run at Ludwig. That's usually a losing battle, and that time it was. Boriskov was the one that wound up on his pants on the ice. Here's Ludwig at center ice. Slides it off the boards. Nice play as he just banged it off the boards to Gilchrist. Gilchrist throwing it into the corner. It goes around the boards and out to center ice. Desjardins will chase it down inside the Canadian zone. Cannon moving in on Desjardins, number 10. Desjardins under a little pressure, but he got it out to center ice. Makarov shot right back into the Canadian zone. Here's a chance, and moving in Yemchinov, who had a good first period, and he had a golden opportunity there, and he fanned on it. Well, you talk about the young players. Here's one they think may be a great player in his time. Andrew Castles, who came up from the Ottawa 67s, scouted by Doug Harvey, the late Doug Harvey, who recommended him to the Canadians and said, just take your time with him, and he's going to be a great player. Well, they're beginning to see this youngster come along now, and they think that he will be a great playmaking forward for the Canadians.
I've watched him today skate. I'd be a little concerned about how quick he is, especially for a center iceman on a team that needs some offense.
On the face-off, Courtnall gets it out to center ice. Lefebvre. That's Naslund unloading a pass. Now Courtnall at full speed comes through center ice, tries to make a move on the defense, and they did a good job on him as Lashenko was right there. That puck is cleared off Harin's stick out to center ice again. Lefebvre, Schneider, Courtnall. Courtnall tried to pass it. Lashenko intercepted it. Soviets back. Yemchinov, but he didn't know he had the puck. Naslund to Courtnall. The line's been buzzing around all night. Naslund over the line. Naslund with Courtnall and Carbonneau. One thing this line has is speed. Lefebvre with a shot. Drifts over top of the net. Had Carbonneau ducking behind the net. And the puck is cleared out to center ice once again. And Humalev. Humalev to the line. Drops it off. Harin with some room. Harin's shot hit the side of the net. As, again, Brian Hayward stood his ground very well on the short side. Now Lefebvre. Lefebvre, Carbonneau. Carbonneau skated right by it, but Courtnall's there. Courtnall drops it off for Naslund. Naslund working in front of it. Gets it out there. He went right past Carbonneau. Now it's center ice. Stepa with a jump on Schneider. Schneider hauled him down, and the puck is cleared into the corner. Referee lets play go on. Corson backhanding around the net. After it along the boards is LeBeau. Pass Courtnall down to the blue line of the Soviets. Makarov tried to get it over for Odinsov. Now Odinsov will come through center ice. Mironov cutting in front of the net, and a bouncing puck that he couldn't get a good handle on and went wide of the net. Clearing pass hit the referee. In against the board, Stepa in front. There's the shot taken by Zaitsev over top of the net and into the crowd. And we'll have another face-off. 6:06 gone in the second. 1-0 Canadians.
2-0 over Hartford in the second period. We're getting some goals finally around the league here tonight.
Not too many in this one. 1-0. The Canadians leading.
Right, after 12 seconds, they've shut it down here in an offensive sense anyway.
Zaitsev on the face-off. He's number 7 for the Soviet Wings. You're wondering about the Wings of the Soviet. It's an aircraft factory that sponsors this team in Moscow. Richer, not the Air Force. That's a pass ahead, and Corson gave up on the play because he knew he was offside, but the whistle was late and finally went. And, so we'll get another face-off.
Sergei Zaitsev, the leading scorer in this Super Series here with 2 goals and 3 assists with 5 points in the 4 games against the other NHL clubs. That particular play, Richer looks like he's going to shoot the puck at the net, gives it a fake, and Corson continues in under the assumption that the puck is heading forward. In the meantime, Corson goes offside, and we have a face-off in the neutral zone.
LeBeau, Richer, and Corson is the line right now. They're wondering about LeBeau, who had a tremendous year in American Hockey League last year, but having his difficulties in the NHL, and they wonder whether he'll ever be an NHL player. Corson getting set, took the shot, and Bratash, who has not been overworked in this period, makes the save.
And really, in the first period, he wasn't overworked neither. Again, we suggest, I think the Soviets have had the better of opportunities here. Stephane Richer, pretty good period.
He's improved his play. The thing that they say about Richer is that he's finally found the game-in, game-out intensity that they've been looking for from him. Something the Soviets are having difficulty with. They were playing in the NHL right now. That need to be able to be up for 75 of the 80 games. You have to be ready.
And it's also got to be incredibly tough for a French-Canadian goal scorer to play in Montreal.
You're right. Panin. I can't believe some of the things that have been written about him in this city. Corson, Dufresne behind the net. Up along the boards, Daigneault. Rakovsky for the Soviets now. Good speed as he hits the line. Took it on the stick handle and took that shot. LeBeau up against the boards. Fed it behind the net. Daigneault will chase it around the net and into the corner. The helmet lying on the ice. Daigneault takes a hit but unloads the clearing pass to center ice, and Makarov back deep in his own zone. Sergei B. Makarov. Don't confuse him with Calgary's Makarov in any way. That's called icing. And back into the Soviet zone for another face-off. 7 minutes, 19 seconds gone in the second period. On a Courtnall goal, it's 1-0.
J.J. Daniel, take a look at here. He's been around, started in Vancouver, went to Philadelphia. The guy, as you mentioned before, Ron, that very good with the puck. But there's a lot of defensemen that have been very good with the puck, but also a little bit better in the own end of the ice. And
that's a polite way of saying he's not very good defensively. And
perhaps back in his home turf in the province of Quebec, he'll gain some defensive insight, and the Canadians hope that he does.
Well, they're still waiting for it. The frustrated Dave King, they wound up playing him as a forward for much of the 1984 Olympics. Vancouver couldn't get him straightened out, neither could Philadelphia. Neither could a year in Sherbrooke. Desjardins deep in his own zone. Bangs it off the boards near the line. Knocked down. Strachov beating it behind the net. Reaching in there was Humalev, but the Canadians come away with it. Big line again with McPhee. McPhee trying to clear it into the corner. Todd Ewan's there, cleared to the side of the net. All 3 forwards piling up in front of the net, and out come the Soviets with Harin leading the rush. Humalev, his shot deflected past Harin and into the corner, and Ewan has got it. Jake Ewan hits the line, rips one in there. It's gloved by Bratash. He leaves it side of his net. And the Soviet wings send it through center ice with Schneider going back deep in his own zone. The wings will make a change. Schneider, young defenseman, behind his own net. Out along the boards for Gilchrist. Gilchrist to Castles. Keane shooting it in. That's Terehov. He can't get loose. Kurashov. Stepa backhand pass. Lebedev clearing it in front of the net. Schneider goes to the side of his net. Schneider, he's checked. Puck winds up in the corner. Keane. Now Lefebvre will try. He takes a hit. Body starting to fly a little bit. As out comes Schneider. Schneider to Keane. To Gilchrist. Gilchrist with Keane. Gilchrist trying to work around the defense, and again a good job as Terehov made the play. Castles then tried to throw it in front. Now Gilchrist, Brent Gilchrist out near the blue line, being pinned in there by Volkov. Still with it is Castles. Keane behind the net. He is knocked down on the play by Kurashov. Now Schneider. Stepa checking on him. Cleared in front of the net. Here's Gilchrist shot. He left. Goaltender looked behind him. There's another shot. Score. Keane was in the goal crease and it hit him. Bratash is arguing with the goaltender. He says Keane was standing in the goal crease. An impossible angle, and all Gilchrist did was bank it in off Keane.
Matthew Snyder makes a nice play from the right point. He finds Gilchrist wide on the left side of the ice. Gilchrist gets one good opportunity. Right here, Snyder's going to make a nice play way across the ice and catch Gilchrist all alone. Gilchrist will get one whack at it. The puck will come out. He's just going to move to the net, and I believe this is going to hit Mike Keane right there.
All right, I know the referee is saying that Keane was pushed in there. I don't believe it, but he was being held in there.
We'll get a better look right here. The Soviets complaining, but there's not a whole lot of places that Mike Keane can go. Good call by the officials, but Snyder makes a nice play off the right point to find Gilchrist across the far side of the ice to make the whole play work.
Keane from Gilchrist and Schneider. And the Canadians lead 2-0. Pretty good job. Courtnall over the line now for the Canadians. He is bumped just as he hit the line by Lashenko. And it's Daigneault. Daigneault into the skates of Dufresne. Daigneault will try again. Lashenko at center ice. Carbonneau on top of him. Feeds it right back again, and Dufresne behind his net. Naslund just unloading that pass. Now Carbonneau to Courtnall. Courtnall in deep now. Carbonneau knocked down as he was about to get that pass from Courtnall. Courtnall gets it again. Here's his shot right on. Bratash kept in by Dufresne. Bratash made the save. Courtnall's got it again. Courtnall to Naslund. Naslund ducking away from a check. Naslund cleared in by Dufresne. Now out in front. Here's Courtnall again. Boy, this line has been a going concern. Sovetov now getting it out of harm's way, and out at center ice it's Makarov. Makarov trying to get over the line, does to Boriskov. Boriskov just rolled it through, and it's easily held by Brian Hayward, and we'll get a face-off in the Canadian zone. Habs lead it 2-0. Score, Keane from Gilchrist and Schneider to make it 2-0.
The Soviets arguing, as we saw from that lower ice angle, that Keane was pushed into the goal crease area, and then he was held there. And I mean, there was not a whole lot of areas that he could go to get out of the way of having that puck bank off his foot to give Montreal a 2-0 lead here in the second period.
Hannon throwing it to the line. Ludwig. Desjardins. Pass Richer. Strahov back inside his own zone. Unloads the pass to Mironov. Out to center ice. Desjardins tried to clear it ahead. Panin was right there. And it comes back to Ludwig. To Desjardins. Eric Desjardins inside his line. Back over for Ludwig. LeBeau getting the pass from Corson. LeBeau with Richer going to the net. Richer got it, but he got it in his skates. Corson goes after it. Now LeBeau behind the net for Corson. Corson circling away from the traffic. Behind the net for Richer. Looks for a man in front. There's nobody there. Now Corson goes the great circle route, and Richer had to do it all himself as nobody positioned himself in front of the net with Richer doing the work behind the net. That has to be a little frustrating for Richer.
Well, that's for sure. The Soviets, and really, there's not a whole lot of room. When Richer comes out from behind the net, he doesn't have a whole lot of room. He's on his backhand. He's only 5 or 6 feet away from the net. There's not an awful lot of room. The Soviet netminder, Bratash, takes away the lower part of the ice. And with Richer on his backhand, there just wasn't enough room for a goal scorer. Perhaps Gretzky may have put that one in.
And I know that LeBeau is getting a little lecture from Burns about not getting out in front of the net. Richer's been the dominant player of this game.
But again, the Soviets did a good job. I mean, it's fine to say, well, you got to get to the net, but you've got to get by people, too. The Soviets pick up people around the net.
All right, from the face-off, out at center ice, Humalov leading the rush. Humalov hits the line. Harian is there with him. Harian moves in after it. He's number 15, but he can't control it. There's going to be a penalty called, I believe, on the Montreal Canadiens inside their own zone. It'll be the first penalty to the Canadiens. The Soviets have served one in this game.
Brian Strudlin's going to get 2 minutes for hooking here. Strudlin does a good job to get back as the first forward back. It was a 3-on-2 rush by the Soviet Hockey Club. Strudlin does a good job to come back. We'll see it here Now he's just not in the proper position to get in front of him. He's kind of pulling, and has to pull the Soviet forward Karin down. Sergei Karin is the only draft choice on this Soviet hockey club. Belongs to the Winnipeg Jets. Another look here. Sergei Karin, should he ever decide to come to the NHL, we'll see a lot more of that type of physical play.
On the face-off now, the Soviets making use of their power play. That's Kurashov. Getting it over to Humalev. Humalev, rink wide, hops over the stick of Nemchinov. There's the shot. Whoa, just wide of the net, taken by Humalev. He's got it again. Here's another shot. And again, right in position is Hayward. Back out near the line. Humalev couldn't knock it down. Naslund fights past the check. Naslund stops up over the blue line. Carbonneau going for the net. Couldn't knock down that floating pass. Carbonneau then gets it and clears it to center ice once again. Schneider back in his own zone. Schneider fighting off the checking of Humalev. Around the boards it goes. On the far side, Odintsov. Now Kurashev. Kurashev's shot. And that hit the arm of Ludwig and just went wide, and Ludwig trying to shake that off.
Craig Ludwig takes a shot on his right hand. He's shaking it as he goes up the ice. Soviets thought they had a goal on the deflection.
At center ice once again, Makarov. Makarov to Stepa. Stepa tried to drop it back for Lebedev, who was out of position. Lebedev will get it in the center ice area from Kurashev. Kurashev, rink wide, Makarov. And Makarov at center ice. Unloads the pass. In over the line comes Odintsov. Odintsov. Back to Makarov. Mironov on this side. Shot knocked down by the glove hand of Schneider out to center ice on a 2-on-1. This is Keane with Gilchrist. Keane set, shoots it over top of the net. Indecision all the way, and it wound up with a blown scoring opportunity.
There were a couple of times he wanted to pass it. The third time he wanted to shoot it. Fourth time he wanted to pass, he ran out of room. You have to make your decision and run with it. Keane had a good opportunity. That was a 2-on-1 from the red line on, and nothing happened. In the meantime, the Soviets on this power play are not at all adverse to planting someone in front of the net.
There's Yuri Humalev there, who had that great chance at the other end of the ice.
But watch it down low. See the Soviet in front of the net. They're not at all adverse to planting that guy there and making the box smaller by making the Canadian defenseman be worried about the man in front of the net. Matthew Schneider gets bumped by Heimlev, a rugged winger for the Soviet hockey team.
LaFay back near his own line. Schneider banging it off the boards and back into the Soviet zone. Mironov cutting in front of his own net. Here he comes, drops it off. Now it's Volkov. Volkov checked by Carbonneau. Carries on. Rink wide pass to Zaitsev. Zaitsev, as the penalty is over, tried to work in front of the net and ran into traffic there in the person of Schneider, who really nailed him.
Schneider's had a good period. Played well this second period.
Carbonneau just unloads it to center ice. Back there is Strahov. Carbonneau over for Courtnall. Courtnall tried to duck around the check there of Strahov, but Strahov came away with the puck. Schneider. Carbonneau. Ahead for Naslund. Feather a pass through there to Carbonneau. That stopped. Well, Naslund again. He's been pretty good in this game as well. Naslund tried to circle the defense. Carbonneau as well. Carbonneau tried to get it back to the point. There was nobody at the point. And the Soviets come out with Panin. Golfing it down into the Canadian zone now. And Daigneault at the side of his own net gives it to Dufresne. Dufresne off the boards. Corson can't reach it. Dufresne's got it again. Kearns fires it back behind the net for Daigneault. Moving in is Kurashov. He threw a check on Daigneault. Puck is cleared in front of the net. Panin had a chance, and for the open net, he fanned on it. Now Dufresne in the traffic. He stopped on the play. Puck comes to Courtnall. Courtnall just leaves it there for Daigneault, who gives it in turn to Courtnall. At center ice for Corson to Courtnall. Shot right on. Puck is fired around the glass. And at center ice once again, it's Daigneault picking it up. Daigneault moving up and then shooting it in. Sharakov. Humalev at center ice for Haran. Haran over the line. Haran going in deep now. This is the big line for the Soviet club, and he is upended as he went behind the net. Corson gets it from Richer. LeBeau LeBeau to the line. LeBeau to Richer. Richer tried to make that little move around the defense, and Humilev stopped that. Yemchinov from Humilev. Harin trailing. Here's Yemchinov going in, and they pile into the goal mouth area. Down goes Hayward, but the puck stays out. Still 2-0. Canadians lead. 3:56 left in the second. Ron Roush along with Dave Maloney and Dan Matheson at the Montreal Forum, where the Canadians lead the Wings of the Soviet 2-0. Coming up on 3 minutes remaining in the second period as Corson brings it through center ice. Corson ducking through a check now. Corson in front, and he shot it in there. And it went off the stick of Bratosh and then rolled wide of the post. There's a shot by Matthew Schneider, who's playing in deep. Puck is off the boards. McPhee off the bench couldn't reach it, and it's Volkov. At center ice, Volkov trying to go around Lefebvre. He stopped on the play. Zaitsev. He's unable to carry on. Volkov behind the net, picked up by Zolotov. Zaitsev. Zaitsev turning with it. Zaitsev behind the net now. There's Volkov out in front, and it's deflected away by the defense. Now a shot by Mironov, and it's called for being batted ahead. And we'll have another face-off. 2-0. Canadians lead. 2:24 left in the period.
Take a look at Shane Corson on the Montreal bench. Had a fine opportunity. The problem was this is at the tail end of a long shift for Corson. Right about here, it looks like he loses some gas. He's going to come out in front and just miss the puck. He then is going to head back up and get off the ice. Tail end of a shift, I think he's a little tired. But boy, when you get in that close, you got to find some energy and bury that thing.
Bad hop from clearing shot by Pannon from center ice. Out come the Canadians with Daigneault leading the way, but then he's forced to dish it off for Dufresne. Dufresne clears it to center ice, and at his own blue line and backing up is Kurashov. Kurashov leaving it for Pannon. Kurashov then fell down, got in the way of Pannon. McPhee then waits for his mates to get onside, gives it to Skrudland, who hoists it into the corner. Back there is Kurashov again. McPhee up against the boards, but he can't control it. At center ice, this is Boriskov. Boriskov clearing it in, and Hayward just kicks it away. Ewan throws a big check on Pannon up against the boards. Skrudland leaving it there for the defense. It is Dufresne getting it ahead to McPhee. McPhee to the line. McPhee, and it deflects up into the crowd as he tried to clear it rink wide, and we'll have another face-off. Here's Dan Matheson.
Coming up in our second intermission, we will talk live in the studio with Ryan Walter of the Montreal Canadiens and Mike Bossy, who has scored a goal or two in his time. Stay with us. That will be live in just a couple of minutes' time.
1:31 left in the period. Buffalo continues to lead Dynamo Moscow 4-2 in the second period. Winnipeg leading Hartford 2-0 at the Civic Center in Hartford. Joe Sakic with the go-ahead goal in that game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the Rangers have come back, Dave. 2-1, second period.
And Edmonton, again, Edmonton playing well, leading Chicago in the second 1-0. Craig Simpson, I guess, has got the Oilers up in Chicago.
Lashenko from the face-off. Gets it out to center ice. I like the tempo of this game. It's been a pretty good hockey game all the way around. If you're trying to get out of some bad habits and so on, as the Canadians are, I think that they feel that they're doing it in this game. They've done some good things so far against this club. That's why it's not a good idea to take these games lightly. Nearing the final minute of the second period, Lashenko, Gilchrist checking on him, and is cleared back. Desjardins behind his own net, fires it off the boards for Ludwig. Ludwig off the boards in turn to Keane. Keane just feathers a nice pass to Castles. Castles over the line as he ducks a check. Drop back for Keane. Keane tried to feed it to Gilchrist. And again, that's intercepted. Humilev at center ice to Harin. Harin turning, circling back near his own blue line. Now clears it in front. Knocked away by Keane. They keep it in, however, as Makarov feeds it into the corner. Harin is spun around. Humilev up against the boards. Back out to Makarov. Makarov working well in traffic, then feeds it off the glass and into the corner. And Schneider has it for the Canadians. To Keane. 23 seconds remaining in the second period. Fires it off Mironov's stick. Back inside his own zone. That is Odintsov. Out at center ice for Stepa. Stepa for the Soviet Wings. He can't get in over the line. Big collision. Stepa hit both Keane and Matthew Schneider, and the puck is cleared down the ice. Bratosh out of the net. Leaves it behind the net for Strahoff just as the siren goes to end the second period. Pretty good second period all the way around. Better for the Canadians.
We're going to see.
As they scored the only goal.
Ron, we're going to see a pretty good three-way collision here between Snyder, Keane. Boy, oh boy, that's an old Soviet sandwich here at the Forum. Going to take another look as the Soviets off the ice, the second period here. The Canadians up 2-0. Right here is the goal. Snyder, again, the second goal, key play of the period, makes a nice backhand pass to open up the ice. Gilchrist stays with the puck, and now this puck is just being advanced to the net for no particular reason, but Mike Keane has been pushed into the crease, has been held there. 2-0 Montreal after 2.
Shots on goal in the second period by the Canadians, 10, by the Soviets, 9. Total 21-20, favor the Soviets. 2-0 Canadians lead.
Take you back to 1981, January 24th, and scoring his 50th goal in Game 50 of this season, Mike Bossy. He had just turned 24 years of age. This is the 1983 Stanley Cup against the Edmonton Oilers as he scores an Andy Moog. A terrific career for one of the best pure goal scorers the league has ever seen. And Mike Bossy joins us now. And Michael, the career's over, the goals are over. It's tough for the superstars, and I'm going to call you superstar here. It's tough for the superstars to make the transition from being on top of their game to being maybe just one of the average guys. How have you handled the last part of your life, the last little while?
Well, I never look at myself as an average guy. But if that's how you want to put it, I guess we can speak on those terms. I think what really helped me in my transition from a hockey player to a regular guy is that I spent a year in New York when I did hurt my back, trying to find out what was wrong and taking physical therapy for it. And I think that helped me because I went to all the Islander games. I sort of got all my frustration out of not being able to be on the ice, and that really helped me. And you know, once my career was over, I had prepared well for my after career. I'm busier now than.
Did the dream die hard though that year when you were hurting?
Not really. You know, I had always planned on retiring when I was about 30 or 31, and when I did get hurt, I was 29 at the time, and. You know, I'd planned to do other things, and right now I'm doing them.
Well, one of the things that you're doing other than play hockey is you've come up with this cassette called Smart Hockey with Mike Bossy, and it's available for young people. Is it designed for young people? Maybe give us the picture.
It is, and I didn't come out with the cassette. It was done in conjunction with the Ministry of Tourism and Recreation of Ontario, and along with the Western Hospital in Toronto, and they did it just to how could I put it, just to show kids that how to take care of themselves on the ice, how to take a body check, what to be aware of in different situations on the ice, and to enjoy the game. It gives them a set of exercises that they could do to strengthen their neck and back muscles. And I'm not selling the cassette. It's purely done. Right now, Canadian Tire is promoting the cassette and selling it for the hospital. And what we hope to do in the end is to get money so that we can add more information to it and maybe make another one.
You know, from day one of your career in the National Hockey League, you were one of the most outspoken critics against what we called at the time violence in hockey. Right. You took a lot of flack for that in the early days. As you established your credentials, maybe that flack tapered off. But you were the natural, perhaps, to front an effort like that.
Well, I certainly did take a lot of flack for it. I remember when I came out, an article came out during our first Stanley Cup playoffs against the finals against the Flyers, and an article came out in Inside Hockey saying that I wasn't going to fight and I wasn't going to drop my gloves. Well, you can imagine stepping onto the ice in the Spectrum that night what the reaction was from their fans and from certain players. But, you know, my attitude was that I'm not going to fight, I'm not going to drop my gloves, but you can hit me all you want. I'm just going to bounce up and do what I have to do to perform. And luckily I was able to perform, and therefore, you know, the flack from what I said slacked off after that. And what I liked about it was that after that there were more players who came out and really said what they feel, because I don't think anybody likes to get a punch in the nose or get a stick in the face, and that's what I'm trying to speak about now, to try and eliminate from the game.
Well, Mike, it's a great sport, hockey, and if this helps to keep some kids healthy, then all the better. Thanks very much for being with us.
You're welcome.
Mike Bossy, 2-0 right now. Montreal Canadiens lead. They have 20 minutes.
Play just underway here in the third period. The Canadians leading the wings of the Soviet 2-0. Humilev shooting it back into his own zone. Cardinal working in after that puck, but can't reach it as Nemchinov sends it out to center ice for Harin. Harin turning with it. At center ice, he brings it in over the line, chases it down against the boards, and shoots it at a bad angle off defenseman Craig Ludwig. Naslund at center ice. Naslund, Portnoy working for the net now. There's the shot, and Ratas holds on, and we'll get a face-off deep in the Soviet zone.
Soviet netminder again, Oleg Bratash. Hasn't been that busy, although the Canadians go to the net more than his club will go to the Habs net. I'm impressed with Nemchinov and Stepa. Now, I don't know whether it's because this Soviet team does not have the wealth of talent that the Red Army team had, or Himik Voskressensk. They seem to stand out. These two guys are bigger guys and look like a couple of guys that could probably play in the National Hockey League with the style that they have. They're both big and they're old enough. Maybe we will see one or two of these fellows sometime soon in the National Hockey League.
No problem getting Montrealers, as you saw, enthusiastic about this game. 16,909 to watch the game here at the Montreal Forum. Not very many empty seats on this January 3rd. Here's Hannon with a shot, and there's that example again of letting the puck hit you.
In good position, and he can allow the puck to hit him because he's in good position.
Back out at center ice, Makarov being chased by Richer. Makarov behind the net. Richer threw the check at him after he unloaded the puck. And the puck is out at center ice again. Over the line for the Soviets is Lebedev. Lebedev just blindly throwing it through the slot area. Odintsov in the corner. Lefebvre gives it to LeBeau. And LeBeau leads the rush. LeBeau with Richer. Tried to drop it back for Richer. Just deflected away. Sovetov. The line, Zaitsev, and clears it out. It's brought back in by Mironov. And again, a face-off. 2-0. Canadians lead. 1:38 gone in the third period of play.
Again, the Montreal bench. Shane Corson, big winger. Boy, there's a lot of teams that we mentioned at the top are looking for big wingers in the National Hockey League. It's interesting that Brian Propp was named to the Campbell Conference All-Star team. When you check down the list of votees or the people that were voted for, there is not an overwhelming amount of quality left wingers in the National Hockey League.
Hard to find. Steve Schutt, a long-time left winger, now works the radio broadcast here in Montreal. Always said to me, well, my record of 60 goals in the NHL, which is the all-time record for a left winger, is not going to stand for very long. Well, Steve's record is still standing. Great scores don't seem to come off the left side. Here over the line now for the Soviets. That's Soletov. He is knocked down. Center ice again. Puck is cleared back. Strahov, a rink-wide pass to an open side, and Schneider gets it, and it is called. Canadians leading the wings of the Soviet 2-0.
Matt Snyder is going to catch Zaitsev with a good open ice, good shoulder arms check. Actually, that was Soletov, Sergei Soletov. He's going to catch it, a little flat-footed. In the meantime, Schneider's not going to get beat anywhere in that position. He's got good body control. His feet are wide apart, lays the shoulder into him. Schneider's had a good hockey game.
It's interesting that Schneider 2 years ago nearly made the Canadians right out of junior. And then last year wasn't close to making the club, and they sent him back. This year he's finally come into the form that they think will make him a long-time Canadians defenseman. Here's McPhee. We've got penalties to Ewan and Zaitsev, by the way, on that sequence. Double minors at 2:14. Here is Richer shooting it in there. Bratash standing right in there as well. Taken out of harm's way by Koroshev. At center ice now. Koroshev with a shot. Drifts past the upper left-hand corner. Daniel goes down under some checking, and McPhee comes out with it. McPhee working with Richer. McPhee circling back and fired it into the corner. Castle's moving in after it. There's along the boards. At center ice, Boriskov. Boriskov over the line. Nemchinov shot right on. Good save. Good reaction there from Brian Hayward. Behind the net now. Humilev getting that pass from Nemchinov. Canadians, however, with Castles out to Keane. Keane trying to work around the defense. Does a pretty good job, but sticking right with his check is Lichenko. And at center ice, Harin, but he's stopped on the play. Gilchrist feeding it back to his own defense. Ludwig, rink wide. That's Desjardins getting it out through center ice. Keane to Castles with a little room. He shot it right at the defenseman, Sergei Makarov. Keane out of center ice once again. Here they come. Yemchinov trying to split the defense. A loose puck rolled right to Hayward. He steered it behind the net. Now it's center ice. Mironov. Off his skate. Harin turning in the center ice zone. Forced to circle back as he waits for his mates to get on the ice. Strahoff. And it is called. Well, we'll have a face-off. Too many men on the ice. So, we'll get a call. 2-0 Canadians lead.
Well, the Soviets always draw a good crowd here. No different tonight. 16,909. The Canadians did include this game in the season ticket package, which has made a big difference in the franchises that have done that. I know Philadelphia sold out for January 9th. They included it, as did the Washington Capitals and the Detroit Red Wings. So the franchise takes a stance that they want their people to come and see the games. The people look like they will come.
Here's Lefebvre inside his own line. Naslund brings it out to center ice. Naslund working it to the line. Lefebvre off the boards. Drops it back, and Naslund couldn't hold it. It's down into the Canadian zone. A too many men on the ice penalty called against the Soviets. So the Canadians working on the power play. The penalty came at 4:15. Now here's Courtnall. Courtnall makes a move inside his own line. Now brings it out to center ice. Odinsov checking on him, and it's found back into the Canadian zone. The Canadians have an awful power play, statistically and obviously, as you're seeing here, artistically. Courtnall clearing it around the boards. Carbonneau, Naslund. One of the worst power plays in the NHL. Here's Schneider. Schneider to Lefebvre. Lefebvre takes a shot. Locks at the goal. Here's another shot. That one by Carbonneau. And the puck is cleared out to center ice once again.
The opportunities they are getting aren't a result because they're on the power play. They don't set anything up. They do not play with the same intensity, particularly the Carbonneau, Courtnall, Naslund line that they do when they're full strength.
Here's Schneider with a great move as he got in there and then lost it as he went for the net. Keeping it in his Corson. Well, you're not putting Lafleur, Lemaire, and Shutt out there either, along with people like Lapointe. However, they've got Richer, and Richer's in front of the net and hit the post. Made a nice move and then hit the post. Just lacked the finish. Here's Humalev. Humalev at center ice. And it slides through to Hayward. Daigneau's there. Daigneau, Dufresne behind the net. Hayward. LeBeau. Stéphane LeBeau for the Canadians. Out to Corson. Corson rink wide. Daigneau moving up and overskated the puck. Now it's Corson. Here's a shot. And he drifted it wide. Behind the net now. LeBeau tries to force it out in front and it hit a leg. Now here's Richer. Richer ducking behind the net. Richer out in front. Corson getting set. Tried to go to his forehand. Gave the defense time. And out they come. Leading the rush is Makarov. Over the line he comes. Makarov shoots right on. Down goes Hayward. And makes the save and covers up as the penalty is expired.
And Brian Hayward making another nice save for the Montreal Canadiens here. But it's interesting, like the Vancouver Canucks we saw a couple of nights ago, this Montreal team hits the offensive zone with some pretty decent movement, but they don't have, we're going to take a look at Makarov here, like a good save by Brian Hayward, but look at the positioning. He's outside, he's not out of control. You never get the sense that he's out of control. Stéphane Richer using his size and strength, and he's going to snap this one off the post. It's going to go wide. Not so much speed from Richer's play on that play, but just his strength and good hands.
Ludwig batted it out of midair. Ewan's got it now. Ewan, a rink-wide pass that was knocked down by Volkov at center ice. Sprudlin then. Sprudlin chasing it down as Ewan fell down just at the line. Now Ewan will go after it behind the net against some checking from Volkov. Volkov, the 17-year-old defenseman on this team. He starts out. And Volkov at center ice now. Volkov over the line. He shoots it. And it slips high over top of the net. A return pass out hit the side of the net. Goal in front, cleared out near the line. Keeping it in is Mironov, but his shot was blocked at the defense. Out they come again with Desjardins carrying. And throwing a check out there is Lefebvre, and they went down like bowling pins. Ludwig. Desjardins. Through center ice for Skrudland. Skrudland at the line. Skrudland trying to get it to Keane. Keane's got it. Keane looking for a man, but there's nobody there as the Canadians are on a change. Strahoff checks him. Keane goes after it in the corner. Comes back to the point, and Lefebvre golfing it around the boards past Keane, and Penin at the far side. And he heads off the ice as a rather sloppy change at the Soviet bench with the puck right below the bench. A long drifting shot comes in from center ice. Inside his own zone. That's Penin getting it out along the boards, and it was intercepted by Keane, but they couldn't get anything going there. Lebedev. Strahoff. Schneider goes back deep in his own zone. Panin's in there forechecking. Puck comes to the line. Kurashev shooting it to the side of the net for Lebedev. Lebedev out in front, and it just cleared away. I think that was Hayward who cleared it away. Puck was batted ahead. We'll get a whistle on that infraction. Canadians lead the Soviets 2-0. Quebec Nordiques, a better hockey club since the arrival of Greg Millen. Play goal for them, 4-4 tie. Francis Getty has just tied that one up for the Leafs. Rangers 2, Washington 1 in the third period now. They've come from behind in that game. Edmonton 1, Chicago 1. Chicago just come back to tie that game in the second period.
Matthew Snyder's going to get one here for roughing, and the Soviets will go on the power play. And we'll watch here as the Soviets put 1 or 2 men in front of the net.
On the face-off, another save for Hayward. He's another shot. That's through a crowd, and Hayward reached up while flat on his back and stole one away. And he gets a standing ovation here at the Montreal Forum, and Igor Boryskov can't believe it.
The ghosts of Vladimir Tretiak have come back to the Montreal Forum, but again, the Soviets have all kinds of people in front of the net on the power play. Watch his glove hand right there. He's got a pick. He's leaning on his glove hand. He's got to get up and catch the puck. And Nemchinov can't believe it, but again, Brian Hayward doing what he's done all night, shutting down the Soviets.
On the face-off, Makarov in his own zone. Soviets on the power play with 1:35 remaining in the power play chance. That was Carbonneau who knocked that towards Bratage, who had to be very alert on that play. And Naslund feeding it back. Pass ahead for Carbonneau. Carbonneau turns at the line. Naslin's moving in as well. Took a shot. Defenseman for the Soviets has lost his stick. Here's a chance now for Ludwig. Ludwig with Carbonneau in front, but it hit a leg. Makarov starts out. That's center ice for Humalev. Humalev against the board. Feathers it back to the point for Kurashev. Makarov on this side. Makarov to Kurashev. Makarov. Kurashev. Now into the crowd, right in front of the net. Good chance there for Nemchinov on the deflection, but again, Hayward was there. Hayward just gave Nemchinov a whack. Here's Makarov. Makarov getting set loose in front. The shot. They score! It was coming. You could see it coming. And finally putting it in was Yuri Humalev on the far side.
But again, they were allowed to establish it because they caused so much commotion in front of the net. It's out of sight, out of mind. Right here on the lower part of the screen, Hayward's following. Whoops. The Soviet over here to the left. And it's going to be, I believe, Starakov is going to put this one in the net. But again, Nemchinov spent the whole power play in front of the Canadian net. A number of times Hayward went out. It's Heimlev is going to put the Soviets on the board here. But again, out of sight, out of mind, and it began with that commotion in front of the Montreal net.
Lefebvre from the face-off at center ice. Canadians lead the game 2-1. Mironov behind his own net. Cleared off the boards to center ice. Schneider shooting it right back in again. A power play goal for the Soviets. And they come loose once again. A 2-on-2 out through center ice. Leading the rush for the Soviets is Zaitsev. Zaitsev along with Volkov. Zaitsev shooting it. He's wide of the net with it. At the point, Mironov keeping it in. Mironov rink wide, and Zaitsev fanned on it as he tried to one-time it. He's checked up against the boards by Lefebvre, and the puck is out at center ice again. Mironov threw it right onto the stick of LeBeau. LeBeau shoots on the backhand, and staying right with it was Bratage. Now it is Richer. Richer, LeBeau into the corner for Corson. Richer goes for the net as Corson battles behind the net and is poked into the corner. Out at center ice, Lefebvre. Lefebvre took a swipe at it, missed it, but he collects it near his own line, then feeds it back. Matthew Snyder, teams make changes. Snyder brings it to center ice. LeBeau, a rink-wide pass, a dangerous one at that as Ewan shoots it in, wide of the net. Corson, Ewan in front, deflected it. Ewan goes after it, tried to flip it in front again, and it was knocked away. Now it's center ice. Backing up is Ludwig near his own line. Desjardins. McPhee at center ice. McPhee hits the line. He is knocked away from the puck by Kurashev. Now Ludwig at center ice. Desjardins around the boards. Off the stick of Bratage. Big hit there by Ewan. The puck is deflected up into the crowd off the stick of Brian Scrudland. 2-1. Montreal Canadiens lead the Wings of the Soviet. 8:14 left in regulation.
Grandpas are like dads, only they never scold you. Mom says it's because they're only with you part-time. Grandpas are wise and can teach you things. And they're never too busy to answer all your questions. Grandpas love you, and you love grandpas.
Grandpas, that's what Bell Long Distance is for.
Well, the Montreal Canadiens are a different-looking hockey club in this 89-90 season. Part of that is this young fellow to the left of your screen. That's Claude Lemieux, who has played but one game this year because of injuries and an operation to repair torn muscles in his rib cage. The other player there is Jyrki Lume, who's one of the promising defensemen of the Canadiens. And he's out with a leg injury suffered in Calgary. That's Humalev getting in offside. So the face-off outside the blue line. Exactly 8 minutes left in regulation. And the Canadiens leading this game 2-1. I think they can thank Brian Hayward for a lot of it. There is Humalev. 6'1", 196 pounds. Not drafted by anyone. Can you see any reason, Dave?
I haven't. No, I haven't. They have a bigger club. I noticed them this morning at the skate. They seem to be physically bigger. But the thing is, their more skilled players have stood out because they're not that skilled a hockey team.
Humalev is one of those players that has played a lot with the Soviet national team, but not drafted by NHL clubs. Now behind the net, trying to work his way out in front is Gilchrist, and is taken away. Gilchrist goes up against the boards, against Boriskov. Now Humalev. Swinging back. Gilchrist. Boriskov. Still inside the Soviet zone as Castle's in there forechecking. Zaitsev gets it at center ice. Zaitsev with Desjardins back. Cleared right to Gilchrist. Gilchrist checked away from him, but covering up was Desjardins. And it's out at center ice again. Moronov. There's Ludwig. Strahoff clears it in. Castle turns with it. And Castle. Naslin, Dufresne. Dufresne just easing it ahead to Naslin. Naslin to Courtnall. Courtnall to Naslin. He missed the net on the far side. Seemed to be deflected, and he had an open net, and it just went harmlessly by the post.
I think Bratage got a bit of his stick or blocker on that shot.
Well, here comes Carbonneau now. Carbonneau with Courtnall. Courtnall gets it now, and from Carbonneau goes in, shoots it, and there again is Bratage, and he holds on for the face-off. Good action here in the third period. The Canadiens continue to lead the Soviets 2-1.
The Montreal Canadiens are going to get their second good opportunity here. Carbonneau throws it across to Courtnall. Courtnall has him dead, but doesn't go quite wide enough on the backhand. And Oleg Bratage keeps the score 2-1 in favor of Montreal.
Pretty steady, isn't he?
Yes, he's played well. The poorest goaltending I think we saw was the Voskresiens team. All three other teams have had pretty mobile, small, good with the puck netminders.
By the way, in that Toronto game, Mark Osborne scored with Less than a minute remaining. Aslan, lead for leading. Got in over the line, but Courtnall was offside, and we'll do it all over again outside the blue line. Bratash, by the way, faced a couple of members of the Montreal Canadiens at the World Junior Championships in 1985. Stéphane Richer was in that tournament, so was Shane Corson. And then Corson played against Bratash again in 1986, so they know him. A few of them have seen him. But he's steady, and he had the best goals against average in the Soviet Union last year as an individual at 2.40. It's not bad at all. And not playing for a top team. Well, here come the Soviets with a little speed. Trying to get over the line was Odintsov. Daigneault then unloads it. Dufresne following on the play. Just cleared it out to center ice, and then Dufresne took a punishing hit in deep from Stepa.
Dufresne looking down. He's coming around the back of the net on his backhand, fighting the puck, and he got belted by Stepa.
Now here's Carbonneau. Carbonneau threw it right off Courtnall. Stepa turns around, comes in, shoots it. Just missed it on the far side. Yemchinov at center ice. Checked by Naslund. Naslund coming back. Courtnall's with him. So's Carbonneau. Carbonneau gets the pass. Shoots it. Right on. Rebound. Clear to center ice, and Lefebvre knocks it down. Again, Bratash playing the position well. Getting a clinic from these two guys. They play the position technically very well. Herron over the line. Herron looking to cut around the defense. Lefebvre chased him behind the net, and Richier's got it. Here comes Richer. Richer at center ice with LeBeau and Corson. LeBeau gets the pass. His shot blocked at the defense. Going to his knees was Alexander Lechenko. And he is hurt on the play. I think that got him in a very tender area. And he is down.
What tender area would that? No.
You asked the tough questions, don't you?
In the meantime, the Soviet defenseman, Lechenko, goes down awfully early on this play. LeBeau gets a nice drop pass from Richer, but kind of takes one peek and buries his head and doesn't realize that the Soviet defenseman is down on his knees. But in the meantime, he's feeling not so good here at the Montreal Forum.
Lechenko is doing a good job of blocking the shot. He just wishes that it had been a little higher.
But the thing is, had LeBeau, Richer creates the play through the neutral zone and makes a nice drop pass. LeBeau takes one look and buries his head. Here it is right here. He's got all, watch how soon he's down. He's down before that stick is even back to make a slapper. LeBeau buries his head. Whoops! The analyst is wrong with the power of camera. But in the meantime, the stick goes back. The Soviet defenseman is down. Dufresne fighting the puck a little bit here, coming off his backhand, and boom, Stepa lowers the boom.
One thing we're seeing a lot more of, each time they come over here, they're more physical. I've never seen the Soviet Central Army more physical than they were in Vancouver in the game we did there last week. Snyder, deep in his own zone, off the boards. Richer getting loose. And just as he hit the line, it was stripped away from him by Nemchinov. Soviets trailing by just a goal here, trying to put the pressure on in the Montreal Canadiens zone. Good hit in there by Lefebvre on Nemchinov. Lefebvre's got it behind his net. Ahead for Corson. Corson working with LeBeau and Richer. Corson drops for LeBeau. Back to Corson! And he just couldn't find the net, trying to deflect it. Rumelev at center ice now. Rumelev taking a shot. That's gloved by Brian Hayward. Boy, an entertaining hockey game it's been. Canadians 2, the Wings of the Soviets 1, 4:06 left in regulation. Part of the crowd of 16,000 plus here at the Montreal Forum enjoying this hockey game. It's given us a lot here tonight.
Seen some entertaining play, backed up by good solid goaltending, and a pretty good hockey game.
Desjardins back deep in his own zone. A backhand pass for McPhee. McPhee ahead. Skrudland. Skrudland up against the board. Skrudland then hooks it back to Ludwig. Ludwig. Desjardins through center ice. Ewan moving into forecheck. Can't track it down along the boards, but he managed to leave it there for Skrudland. To McPhee to Ewan. Ewan lost it off the tip of his stick. Ewan then tried to force it back out in front of the net by past Kurashov, but it was intercepted. Soviets getting it to the line, but not out. It's kept in by Skrudland, but McPhee couldn't hold it. Here they come again with Volkov. Volkov dropping it off. This is Zolotov. Zolotov getting around the defense, and it rolled right through the goal crease. Ludwig is after it in the corner. He leaves it there for Desjardins. Ewan goes to the point, but no further. Mironov, a screen shot that Hayward didn't see till the last instant, but it drifted wide of the net. Zaitsev for Mironov, and McPhee had him lined up and missed him. Mironov over the line. Mironov shooting it. Lebedev behind the net is rolled out in front, and there's Hayward to put his big catching glove on the puck, and he holds with 2:59 left in regulation time. Canadians leading by a goal here.
The Soviet wings showing no sign of backing up and going home here in the last 5 minutes of this hockey game. It has been an argument and something that we have discussed, that the Soviets do not show much of an ability to come back, although they're only down 1, and that may make a difference in this particular hockey game. But they've gotten better as the game has gone on here, and have had some good chances. Had it not been for Brian Hayward, we could have easily had a tied hockey game here.
It'll be Odintsov facing off against the Canadian center Andrew Castles, the rookie. Just cleared behind the net. Daigneault around the boards. Makarov pinches in. Puck goes loose and is sent down the ice by Castles. Kurashov ahead for Makarov. Makarov, that long lead pass now, following up on the play and over the line as Lebedev. His shot is wide of the net. This is Odintsov. He gets it to Makarov, who loses it. Castles comes out on a 2-on-2 with Gilchrist. Catching up is Keane. Dropped off for Gilchrist as they crisscross inside the line. Gilchrist runs into traffic back there, and Makarov has it. Lead pass deflected away by Dufresne. At center ice, it's cleared ahead by Odintsov. In deep is Borisov, and it's called on the icing, and a face-off back inside the Soviet zone with 2:14 left in regulation time. 2-1, Canadians lead.
Again, the 2:14 left here. We're going to have a face-off to the left of the wing net minder, Oleg Bratash.
And from the face-off, out at center ice, it's wristed ahead and just unable to reach it is Humalev. Now, well, it'll be interesting to see how Coach Igor Dmitriev handles these final 2 minutes. Will he shorten his bench, which they normally don't do in the Soviet Union, but he's got two skilled lines here. Here's Naslin to the line.
It was interesting to note that of all the Soviet teams that have been here, he was least inclined to play as 5-man units.
Yemchinov, Courtnall takes a whack from Yemchinov. Courtnall then brings it to center ice. Has trouble against the checking of Lebedev. It's wristed off the boards. Here's Courtnall. Courtnall getting set over to Naslin, and he lifted it wide of the net. He was being checked rather closely by Lebedev. Out they come again. Strahov. Out of his net, that is Hayward. At center ice, McPhee getting it from Courtnall. Back for Carbonneau. Carbonneau couldn't get loose. Then back they come again with Kurashev. Kurashev spun around as he unloaded the pass. Now McPhee gets it. McPhee with 1:04 left. Over the line for Skrudland. Offside. Skrudland was positioned just inside the blue line. Didn't realize he was not straddling the line. So we'll get a face-off outside the Soviet blue line with 1:02 left in regulation time.
Soviet netminder looking to see whether he will be pulled, and I'm sure he will if the Soviets are able to get possession and then gain the offensive zone.
Don't count on it. It'll be interesting if he's pulled, because in North America, you're wondering whether you do it right now or as soon as his team gets the puck. But in the Soviet Union, they don't do it. A lot of that is because of tournament play, where goals against count so much, and an open net goal might cost you a world championship or a medal.
But they're talking away from, as Pat Burns surveys the situation, it does look like there is being some communication from the bench to the Soviet netminder. He may indeed be coming out.
Less than a minute remaining now as Ludwig golfs it in. Comes right back out. Here's Corson with a shot. And now the Soviets have possession. We'll watch the goaltender as Zaitsev clears it through center ice. Goaltender is looking for the bench, and he starts out but doesn't go too far as the Canadians take over possession once again. Desjardins trying to get out of the zone. Corson gets it out. And backing into his net is Bratash. Now it's cleared through center ice. Desjardins then knocks it ahead. Makarov couldn't hold it at his own blue line, and it's Kurashov who has to go back for it. Kurashov with 24 seconds remaining. Out comes Bratash. Kurashov will go in deep. An extra attacker on the ice for the Soviets. Puck is behind the net. Cleared right to Skrudland. Skrudland tried to backhand it off the boards. Kept in by Humalev. Humalev Poking after it is 8 seconds remaining. Out in front of the net. There's nobody there. The Canadians take over possession, and the Canadians are going to win this hockey game. A good hockey game at the Montreal Forum. The fans stand. They appreciate what has happened here as the Canadians beat the Wings of the Soviet 2-1. Two teams put on a pretty good show for what they like to call a friendship game.
They sure did. There was good, aggressive hockey. Both goaltenders played well. A little confusion on behalf of the Soviets getting that netminder out of the goal, but nonetheless, a fine finish for the Soviet wing hockey team. They're only going to win one of the 5 games here. End of the game at the Montreal Forum, 2-1.
That's the final score, 2-1. We'll return with our Molson Most Valuable Player announcement right after this message.
Здорово, Василий. Привет. Понимаешь, я думал. Что? Ну, про этих капиталистов, с которыми мы играем. Так. Мы хотим выиграть. Да. Они хотят выиграть. Ну и что? Они дали нам свои самые лучшие коньки. Сумасшедшие.
CCM 651 такс. Включаете мощность.
The Molson Export Most Valuable Players from both teams, the goaltenders. From the Montreal Canadiens, Brian Hayward made 30 stops in this hockey game, 12 in the first period. He had a shutout through 2. It wasn't until 9:58 of the final frame that he gave up a goal. From the Soviet Wings, it is Oleg Bretpash. He made 27 saves. Russ Courtnall, Mike Keane beat him. The final score again here at the Forum, 2-1. The Canadians beat the Wings. We'll be right back at Molson Super Series 89.